Welcome back to Large Man Abroad, everybody. Let's have a talk. Economic uncertainty right now in the United States is driving businesses to lay off people to get ready for a loss in profits that are set to be coming in the months to come. As businesses are moving to protect themselves, Americans more and more are facing job loss and the substantial hardships that come with that. So to get a greater picture of what's happening right now, let's have a look.
I saw that Intel made a recent announcement that they were doing a RIF, a reduction in force, of about 20% of its workforce. Its workforce is 109,000 people, in-person staff. So that is roughly 21,000 jobs. I also saw that UPS plans to cut about 20,000 employees. I know this is kind of old news, but that's going to be one of the largest in U.S. history. So then I decided to hop over to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics to see where we're standing so far this year. It looks like 1.8 million people were laid off or discharged in February 2025 alone. That brings us to 3.5 million layoffs and discharges in 2025 so far. That's pretty big. So far, just January and February is what the data has been reported. Layoffs and discharges total 3.5 million, and that is 2.7% higher than the same period in 2024. In February 25, that data that I had given, so the 1.5 million, that looks like that stands for about 1.1% of all employed people. That's huge. So when I dig a little bit deeper, the layoff and discharge rate was highest in the professional services industry in February. Second to that was construction, and then information, leisure and hospitality, retail, trade, transportation and utilities, manufacturing, wholesale trade, financial activities, education and health services, mining and logging, and then government. So again, a lot of us think that all of this is happening in the government sector right now, but it's not. It's happening a ton in the private and public sector as well.
So as we can see, this is a huge problem for pretty much all Americans at this point, as we're seeing 3.5 million layoffs and discharges happen in just the first 2 months of the year. And they're only going to be growing rapidly from here on out as we're actually seeing the consequences of Trump's tariffs hit the United States economy. To put things in perspective, that would mean that nearly 3% of the total labor force in America was laid off in the first 2 months of this year. So how does that bode for the rest of the year when on average it takes professionals 2 to 3 months to find new employment? It doesn't look good. This is a bad place for the American people to be in because, as I said, this is just the first 2 months of the year. What does it look like by fall when the impact of the tariffs have really hit full force and we have no idea where our economy is going to be moving as far as our inclusion in global trade? Because we should keep in mind that global trade hasn't stopped. It's just stopped with its participation with America in many considerations. And while MAGA influencers may be lauding Trump for his efforts to slash the economy, slash wasteful spending, at the same time, what we're seeing is that these reductions in employment aren't just happening in the federal government. The vast majority of these are service jobs. And the people who work service jobs typically make an average or median salary and work in fields that participate in local economies, not just on a federal level. And with recent cuts to the social benefits, the social safety net just isn't there for this many people. As we talked before, food banks are going empty and these people really have nowhere to go. Financially speaking, a lot of these people will get some kind of severance package when they are laid off. But the same people who may have been working at these companies for 10, 15 years, who've been counting on a pension in the future so they can retire, that's easily wiped away. Although they may have their 401k, employees in the civil sectors completely lose their pension. We have to ask ourselves what America is going to look like at the end of the year. If in the first 2 months we've seen almost 3% of the total labor force be laid off, what does the end of the year look like? We have 10%, 20%? Even if Trump reversed his decisions and tried to roll back a lot of these actions that he's put forward since his term began, the effect is there. And this is going to be a lingering effect that's going to take a very long time to go away or to actually reverse. In all reality, the damage has already been done as far as America's reputation goes, and a lot of our allies are choosing to do business with our competitors because they see more political stability and trade reliability with them, opposed to the kind of schizo decisions that are coming from our current administration. You have to do business with those who are reliable. You have to do business when you know that business is going to be steady. And doing business with America at this point has become a risk. So to a lot of countries and businesses, the best way for them to mitigate risk would be to just not participate with the American economy. And although American consumership are a very, very sought after consumer group, they're not the only one that's out there. The fact is, America doesn't have a stranglehold on consuming. There's the entire world. There's emerging markets. There's new populations out there that are a little bit richer than they were 10 years ago, and they're looking for the same products that are sold in America but don't have the opportunity. Now they may have the opportunity, as a lot of companies, corporations, businesses, and countries look for other consumers that they can bring their products to. And it makes it even more attractive when they're able to avoid the tariffs that they'd have to deal with in America. A lot of these businesses have already lost a lot of money for deliveries that have been done on credit. When those tariffs hit, you're seeing a lot of shipments be turned back or abandoned at the port. This is a major issue, and like I said, it blocks up our supply chain, and besides injuring big business, it really causes a harmful effect on small businesses who are relying on parts and products from countries like China, who are able to produce the equipment and products that they need at an affordable cost, when a lot of these products at the same time aren't even available in America because we don't have the same manufacturing abilities that China has at this point. And as we've seen in a previous video, many of Trump's decisions are based solely on the fact that he's relying on building a big business back in America again, large manufacturing, while at the same time not giving any support or incentive for small businesses to grow internally within the United States, by forcing small businesses to pay tariffs if they use products to build that come from outside the United States, especially regarding China. What's worse is what's going to happen to the economy when the job numbers start coming out in the quarterly reports to come. If 3.5 million people were laid off in the first 2 months of this year, what happens to the stock market? What happens to the confidence in our economy when we start seeing those numbers hit double digits, which is completely a possibility at this point? More assets are going to be withdrawn from the United States, which will further devalue the US dollar, making things in America even more expensive. And we're already seeing shortages in grocery stores and price hikes happen, where even items that used to be cheap, like fast food, are now becoming luxury items. The unaffordability crisis, the job crisis, the housing crisis, and the supply chain crisis, these are all symptoms of a political party putting the American people on a course to an area of unknown destination. But the destination that we're moving into is nothing but dark clouds and lightning, and the waves are rising, and will it swallow us up? That's the real question. But beyond all the economics, what we need to understand is that as of right now, in the past 2 months, there's 3.5 million Americans out there without jobs. 3.5 million families that have been touched by the bad decisions of this administration and who are suffering because of the inaction of our political elite to actually put this president in check. It doesn't take someone with a master's degree, it doesn't take somebody with a PhD to tell you that this economy is broken, that we're moving into a horrible direction. We can just look at the lived experience of pretty much every person who is living in this country right now, who actually has eyes and can see what's going on. The people who go to the grocery store, the people who are trying to find jobs. It's getting beyond hard. It's getting impossible. And right now, 3.5 million people are going through that. And as businesses begin to shutter and unemployment goes up, the amount of competition that's going to be out there for jobs means that employers don't need to negotiate anymore, that they can pay employees less, maybe offer less benefits, move W-2 workers to 1099s as a method of reducing cost for the business, but at the same time pushing those costs onto an already suffering working class whose resources are being stretched thinner and thinner every day. It's time to hold people accountable for these actions and the consequences that are resulting from their actions. It's time to divest and boycott, because if the only thing that these people understand is profit, if the only thing that actually moves their political decisions is profit, then you have to move to chisel away at their profit. This is the only thing that we can do to actually affect any change in this country, short of any kind of revolution at this point. You have to make these people's wallets hurt. We have to bleed them dry. If a company is supporting this administration, don't do business with that company. It's the same all over the world right now for companies who've been working with Israel. Boycotts and bans at this level are effective in some ways. And in some ways, they're not going to be, because the reality is people, corporations, or political bodies that have amassed the kind of wealth that allows them to weather these kind of storms don't necessarily care about the short-term consequences. They have the ability to think long-term. And we as a population, for the most part, are stuck in a short-term strategy. And this is because we have no other choice, because the situation that we've been put on by this administration is one of desperation. And we need to act desperately, really, not just as individuals, but as a people, because, like I said, the effects of these actions are far-reaching and they touch everyone at this point. Everyone knows someone who's been laid off at this point. Everyone knows someone who's been actually affected. So it's not just something that you see on the news. It's not just something that you see on social media. It's something that's here and present in all of our lives right now. If you're one of the 3.5 million people who've been laid off in the first 2 months of this year, you have my sympathies and you have my prayers and you have my support. You can understand that you are not alone. That as of right now, there's at least 3.5 million people out there who are going through exactly what you're going through and are just as angry and just as scared as you are. So if you're still watching, I challenge you. If you know someone who's laid off or someone who it looks like they're going to be laid off soon, reach out to them and offer them some kind of support in any way. Even if it's just inviting them over for meals so they don't have to pay for them. You know, invite someone over for dinner, give them some kind of entertainment. If you know of another job, tell them about it. This is a time where people need to start helping each other, but at the same time, hold other people accountable for the decisions and support that they are making. Because we move past the point where one's political opinions and support is really of no consequence. It's of great consequence now. And people need to understand that the people that they vote into office, the consequences and damage caused by those people, that they too are responsible. So I understand why there's such lack of sympathy for Americans who are losing their jobs from rural areas who mostly voted for Trump. I understand why people don't feel bad for them, why people feel like, you know, hey, it's karma, it's justification. This is what you asked for. And maybe it is. I mean, America has always been in a political position where the people can make the decisions that they want, and the impacts are usually on the rest of the world. Because the impact on regime change, the impact on other countries' economies that America is influenced, whether through our trade policy or through our intelligence agencies or militaries, you know, we've, as far as the world sees, we've done a tremendous amount of damage throughout the past century. But at the same time, those consequences never really touch America. They've never really touched the American people, not the small person living in rural America. You know, this is one of the first times in modern history that the consequences of our political choice are actually affecting the lives of everyday American workers in a way where they don't even know if they're going to have a job. So people need to be held to account, and that's really what it is. And that's what we're seeing right now. And again, to the 3.5 million of you out there right now, hang in there, keep your head up, and, you know, at some point, hopefully things get better. But you're not alone. We all have each other here. Reach out and try to get help from somebody. If you know somebody who's going through it, reach out and help them. But as always, everybody, thank you for your support. Thanks for stopping by. This channel runs because of the support of people just like you. Like and subscribe. And honestly, the road we're going down right now is a very interesting one and a little bit of a terrifying one, but we're all going through it together. So let's do what we have to do here to survive at the end of this. But thanks for stopping by as always. Hope you have a good one, and take care.